Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Childs back here again, and we had a brilliant collab last week with the great Jay McIntosh, and I wanted to continue our trend of having some great guests on with a long-term guest, someone I've had on the channel for many years now. We always have great convos about Chelsea, but haven't for a while now, so there's a bit to get into. NiiNiiFC, Nini, thank you so much for joining me again, mate. How's life going?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Recently, my sister got married, so she has a main ceremony now in Italy next week. So yeah, happy for her. It's a bit surreal watching your younger sis now, on the next chapter of life. So it was. I'm happy for her, and I think she's got like a good man. So yeah, that's it. Now everyone I know is getting married and having kids. So that's it.
The main question is, will you be able to watch the Euros next week in Italy? Because that must be a concern.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm gonna come prepared. I've got my devices ready. I can
Yeah.
record on Virgin. I mean, yeah, I'm prepared. So the football and the wedding won't be clashing. So I'm ready for that.
The Euros is about to begin. Um, I obviously, from an England perspective, I am cautiously optimistic that we at least have some very, very good players who I think, if they click together, if they develop quickly, I think England could go quite far. How are you feeling? Because I know there's been a lot of conjecture about some of the very late squad decisions that Southgate made.
Honestly, I feel like there's a theory and a reality. In theory, we have the players, the talents that on their days in our heads could make something happen. But I think maybe in terms of how it actually performs in the field, I'm still got a bit of reservations. Like I understand, Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield, amazing, sick. But then I think to myself, watching the games, like how are we really benefiting from these long balls in behinds? I'm not like
Yeah.
a Liverpool Jurgen Klopp where he needs to have that quality to play over distances because they're trying to release their wingers wide 1v1. We only have a Saka. We didn't bring Rashford. It could have been interesting if we had both of them on the wings to play that type of way. So I've not really seen the utility as much behind it. I'm looking at the defense. I think maybe Southgate has made a few better decisions because I think, we need to have a higher defensive line. We can't just have this gap between midfield and defense all the time. Maguire not being in the team because of injury. Hopefully that's like a godsend. But obviously, hearing news about John Stones got an illness now, so hopefully that's not going to be something too serious. Because I'm hoping him and Guy will be our defense at the
Yeah.
Euros. But I just think up front is how things sink in. You got Bellingham. Listen, Bellingham is like an all-round midfield player. Just because he's playing in a more advanced role at Real Madrid doesn't mean that that's all he is. I think maybe a bit deeper could help. But then I also think too, you look at Conor Gallagher, and normally guys like him, I feel like he could be like the Hargreaves for the national team because I think in these types of tournament football, you need to have that tactically intelligent guy who can break the play, who you know what I mean. He does all the unspoken work that benefits his
Yeah.
teammates. And I felt like maybe at times, even though I thought he was kind of just average, which is not a bad thing being average, but I felt like when he was off, then we were a bit more open actually, defensively in midfield. So there's all the there's just so many like questions being posed behind every decision, and it just tells me, okay, this isn't like a fine-tuned system. It's not a fine-tuned set of players, and it's a shame that the time wasn't used wisely in previous friendlies to try and figure out, okay, this is exactly the approach we are taking into this tournament. So I feel like there's a few question marks still, and obviously the way friendly performances don't necessarily dictate or reflect too much. Maybe you don't want to give everything away before the tournament starts, right? But equally, I don't know. I didn't see too many differences in our performances, but maybe I'm sounding a bit cynical. But I'm looking forward to hearing your take. Like, what's your impressions? Like, how are you thinking and feeling about this whole thing?
Yeah, I think the main thing for Southgate is when it gets to that really tight quarterfinal, semi-final, and England maybe go 1-0 up. I think I'm very fascinated to see what he does if he gets to that point again, because obviously the major criticism of Southgate has been in the Croatia game in 2018, mainly the Italy final in
Yeah.
2021. is that when we get to those moments, he is not proactive enough. And I do ponder whether, either by intention or not, the lopsided nature of this squad being more kind of in attacking quality than the defensive quality is going to force him to be proactive in that moment. So maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I do think that England will get quite far. It's those fine margins that are going to define something. And sometimes it does come down to luck, right? Maybe tactically he does everything right, but England don't take their chances.
Yeah. And
you get knocked out by a deflection. Like, that's just... and people don't like that because I think they want really sort of concrete answers and want to paint Southgate as like the most incompetent manager ever. But it's like, he's done a lot more than a lot of other coaches.
Yeah, we forget that. We forget that we were awful in tournaments before. So the fact that we're even progressing this deep shows the ideas are there. But yeah, I agree. It is knowing when to be proactive. I think like the final against Italy, to bring on, your Sakas and Sanchos that late, and I think Rashford too that late in the game. I'm just thinking, there was an opportunity to run at that Italian defense and test them. And, you play with that confidence, that assertiveness. And I think maybe his teams kind of reflects that lack of that type of nature. And I don't know, I just feel like this tournament now has to be the tournament Southgate gets things right and trust in the players, because ultimately they decide results, right? There's only so much you can do on the sidelines. But I think a way to help with that is going to be just that bit of both. I think his ideas tactically are right in terms of strategy. That's what gets us there far. And I think to continue those ideas, I don't think England can probably afford to be having front threes of Palmer, Foden and Saka all together. I think balance-wise, it's not going to add up or make as much sense, to be honest with you. Like, I always had these ideas of, wouldn't it be sick to see Palmer and Foden playing together centrally behind a striker, and then they're supported by other guys behind. But we're not going to, we're not ever going to do anything that exciting, to be honest with you. But yeah, and let's see what happens. I think I'm going to keep my expectations quite low, because when I do that, England seem to do better. So yeah, that's my personal tactics for this summer.
Yeah. You keep on forgetting the quality as well. I think obviously I can see Germany going all the way to the final mainly because of Naglesmann, because I rate Naglesmann, and it's so bizarre to have a coach at his age.
I know, like, right?
Near the peak of his powers, and it's like he's at international football. It's just bizarre.
You never see that, do you? You never see that.
I don't think Nagelsmann's going to be around Germany that
long.
No,
he definitely won't.
He's gonna get to a point where it's like he needs to get himself back into club football sooner rather than later. So I think he's their biggest weapon.
Yeah.
And France are just like insane. Like, they just are, like, in terms of like all round depth. They are just, if they perform to their level, I think it's very hard for anyone to stop them.
I think so.
That's just the harsh realities.
I'm predicting like a Germany-France final. I think that might be the final again. I'm hoping. I want a great European final between like two nations at the full peaks of their powers. I think obviously what you're saying about Nagelsmann coming in, it's like, okay, you old men, I've seen the mistakes you've made, especially with Flick just getting way too experimental, as if like he's working with these guys every single day. It was a bit ridiculous, some of the decisions he was doing. But Nagelsmann's like, listen, Wirtz, Musiala, if we do anything in this tournament, it's going to be because of you two. How am I going to build around having both of you playing together? Okay, I'm going to have Kroos in that team, but I need a ball winner alongside him. Ondrich steps in, and it's just like smart decisions that he's making that's creating like a specific strategy for a team he envisions and really committing to that. And I feel like I wish England could maybe show that level of ingenuity at times where you don't have to overcomplicate it, but you have to decide what type of team are we going to be and really commit to those ideas instead of like, okay, I might use this guy in the team, but how do I fit in Bellingham here? How do I fit in Foden there? Maybe the answer is you can't, and you have to commit to who you stick with, right? So time will tell. We'll see how everything goes down.
I don't think Germany are the best team at the tournament in terms of talent. Like, if I think their squad isn't that. I think whilst England's squad is defensive, I think Germany's problem is maybe in attack. Not so much that like Wirtz and Musiala can't create, can't cause problems. I think they just lack a finisher, maybe, in a sense. I could see both of those players create a bundle of opportunities for someone who then doesn't take it.
Yeah.
But I think their biggest weapon is a tactical mind, a coaching mind like Nagelsmann. So I guess in some ways it'd be a very interesting final between Germany and France, because I think you'd have almost be like Man City versus Real Madrid in an international stage, where you have kind of talent and, it sounds dismissive to say vibes, but just like you have so many heavyweights and match winners on the French side, but then you have, I guess, the more very rigid, it's sort of like a coach versus talent, right? Like I think that's interesting. Obviously, from an England point of view, obviously I don't want to tap. I think England would have to beat France in a semi-final, which is a steep task. So I just hope it's an entertaining tournament as well. I hope it isn't, because Euro sometimes can be more dull than World Cups.
You're right, 100%. But obviously there's a bit of a new format now for this one. So I'm a bit optimistic to see how it plays out. I think maybe it's going to encourage teams to maybe go for it a bit more. And yeah, I think with the level of talent, I'm looking at a lot of like the new generation coming through now that can, be the defining parts of the national teams for a very long time. I think that's why I'm excited by this one in particular. I think we can't sleep on Spain. I think Spain in international tournaments too, especially Lamine Yamal. I mean, flipping, I can't even believe this kid, 16 years old. I mean, I keep thinking that we just live in like an FM regen universe at this point, to be honest with you, because he is, what a special player. And I think there's so many exciting talents across many different nations too. I think Turkey are in it too. You're looking at Yildiz. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. He impressed me at Juventus. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big tournament, and I think I'm actually optimistic that this will be like having the same type of quality the World Cup did, to be fair with you. So I just think let's hope England can do well. But I don't know, man, before we have to wrap things up soon, but I wanted to ask you about Harry Kane, because I've always felt like, obviously, how can you not have one of the best strikers in the world playing for you? But then I think to myself, equally at a national team level, do we fully utilize his best qualities and get the most out of him? In games like what we need him for England, can he run in behind at times? Is he necessarily holding the ball up as perfectly? He's a very nice link player, and if you have the right guys around him, the pace and behind in particular, and let him not even have to lead the line, but let him withdraw from play and come into the box, that's when he does a lot of his special stuff. But I don't really tend to see him show the same qualities for England. And I don't know, I'm going to sound crazy, but I just think about team balance. I don't care about how many sexy names are in my first team lineup. That means nothing to me. I just care about how do the team operate. And I think, would we not be a bit more effective maybe with maybe a Tone or a Watkins, adding a bit more physicality? I mean, I'm sounding crazy, I know, but what's your take on Kane?
I think it's tough because he's led the line now for so many years and so many tournaments, and it's not like he hasn't had good moments in the team. We're not in a situation with Kane where we were with, say, Lampard and Gerrard, or even Rooney in latter tournaments, where you kind of pondered, why can't we get his form elsewhere? In some tournaments, especially the Euros where we got to the final last time, he did score goals at important moments in the tournament. I just can't see Southgate not playing him, but I do agree with you that he can't quite have the same all-round impact in game that he does it at club level. And I think obviously a lot of that is a lack of relationship kind of building with his teammates. But then also you walk into a team where you have a Phil Foden, you have Cole Palmer, you have Bukayo Saka, you have different players who for their own clubs are leaned on to be very creative. And especially for years at Tottenham, Kane kind of had to do everything himself because he didn't have a lot of quality around him. And I guess maybe having himself to adapt into a more number 9 role was a problem. I actually think it's better now that he's had a year at Bayern Munich, where he does have a higher caliber of player around him. Yeah, he does have a Musiala. He does have players that will provide for him. So he's had a year at club level, being a little bit more of a finisher, maybe appreciating that he doesn't have to do as much heavy work as he did at Spurs. So maybe actually that may suit him better coming into this tournament, where he can just be a number 9. I don't think it's the most ridiculous thing. I just don't think that Southgate could ever put himself in a situation where he put Harry Kane
That's
on the
what I
bench,
mean.
because if it doesn't work,
Yeah,
everyone will be screaming at you. You had Harry Kane there, one of the best finishers in the world, and you didn't play him. He doesn't have that leeway to not. You know what I'm
I know
saying?
what
Like,
you
it's
mean. I
not.
know what you mean. It'd be a
He's not
crazy
someone that's won
decision,
a
but
tournament.
like it touches
If
on.
he's won the tournament before,
Yeah, exactly. But it touches upon a point you made before, where obviously, he doesn't have to do the heavy lifting because I think England now have those creative players, then your Bellinghams and Folders and Palmers, where would they not benefit just having that guy that can be the platform striker that can just hold the ball up for them and put the ball into areas for them to take shots and find them in behind
yeah,
and positions like this? Would that not benefit them more instead of relying on Kane to be the top scorer at the Euros and his goals like spur us on to you know going through the different stages? I mean, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I know that he scored against a few smaller nations. Yeah, I know he got that doubled against Italy like last year, but I don't know. I just feel like in games when, listen, we don't dominate possession, right? I just think that, okay, what happens off the ball? What can be our outlet to like kickstart a counter attack from nothing when we've got the opposition out of shape? Is Kane necessarily the guy that can lead that? And I just think, I don't know. I just have this. I've always had this thought in my head that after the Euros is over and when we probably haven't won it again, we're going to look back on why, and I'm going to see it as like the Harry Kane problem of, even though the guy's a phenomenal striker, if you're going to use him, get fully commit towards him. But if
yeah.
you're not going to fully commit towards him, then maybe think about the rest of the team, right? So I don't know. I know I'm sounding a bit crazy.
Yeah, no, we hope it all works out. But I think that's the issue. As Chelsea fans, we should know this, right? That what we think on paper is going to happen, like looks good on paper, doesn't always come out in reality, and it's not. We can hope that maybe one last time it finally clicks. But thank you so much, NiiNiiFC, for joining me today. Just a chance for you to shout out for the content that's going to be coming up on your channel over the summer before we head into the new season.
Yeah, so same old news videos, reactions, analysis, and I'm going to do a few Euros things as well. So obviously, you guys stay tuned on Blue Lines TV for what's going to be a pretty big summer.